Hello, and welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to everything from religion to politics, everything in between. We have an amazing, awesome guest tonight. My beautiful, wonderful co-host should be popping in any second, Mr. Mac. And until then, I will explain our extraordinary guest we have tonight. Miss Jenni. I am not going to be adding any last names unless Jenni would like to do that herself. I'm very excited about this. This is like months and months and months, if not a year and a half in the making. So
Yeah.
this is really good stuff. Jenni, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Last name is Smith.
Like it.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Smithy. Smithee. Hi everybody. This has taken a long time to get together. I've really wanted to be on this show because these folks are really smart and they do really good work here on YouTube.
Hello.
Hi Mac.
Oh no, I can't hear.
Oh no.
Oh, there. All right, now we're good. My
Hi,
stepdaughter turned the volume all the way down. So
yeah, well, you have a couple of those, right?
yes.
Yes. Yes. We went through the intro. I introduced Jenni and then I let her say hi and for a second, and then your beautiful faces popped up.
Hi. Yes. Last time we saw you, you were closer.
Yeah. I know. That's sad.
It's sad.
Very sad.
Right.
Very sad.
So Rachel came to say hi. So
Yes.
say hi.
Hi.
Hi Rachel. Nice to meet you.
The wife.
Hey, does your father have any root beer? Does your father have any root beer?
Does my father have any root beer?
Yeah, because this is not your father's root beer.
Oh dear.
Oh
Product
jeez.
placement.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's gonna be that kind of night, huh?
Yeah. When Mac grows up, he's gonna tell good dad jokes.
Yes. I'm a good dad. What can I say?
You are a good dad.
Hello and welcome myself to the show. I'm sorry I'm late, everyone. I would like to just jump in and head off these topics, which I don't think we really have topics. We have our lovely guest, Jenni Morgan. But at the top of the hour here...
It's Smithy tonight. Jenni Smithy.
What?
Smithy. Like Smith?
Smithy.
Yes.
I apologize. I'm very sorry.
That's what happens when you're late.
It did, yeah. I missed the cliff notes. So I
love you.
I would like your opinion, both of you. X fucking sucks, right? X is a stupid idea.
Yeah, it's falling apart
X
fast.
gonna give it to you. It's gonna give it to you. X gonna give it to you. I don't. Yeah. You know what's so funny to me is that it is a very fitting name, because the moment he did that, well, 4 months during the moment and 4 months from now, it will become the world's X. It's my X app. It's your X app. It's everyone's X app.
Well said.
I think that is very good.
Excuse me. Actually,
Blue Sky is rather nice. I think so.
I would.
They're still in development, but I haven't had a problem with anything on that. Not a single glitch.
It's Blue Sky and the other one is Threads. Those are the alternatives, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like Threads much, but Blue Sky is nice.
Yes. I would have downloaded Blue Sky faster if it was called Mr. Blue Sky, but it is not, so I have not downloaded it yet.
I just think of blue skies,
Mr. Blue Sky.
Yeah, that's what I think of.
Anyways,
any old
monetized.
Yes.
Did you also introduce our lovely behind the scenes man?
Our very own Lord and Savior. Nope, we did not get to that point yet.
Well, yes, we have not witness underneath us, for better or for worse, in which any way you take it. But he'll only give it one way, and
Oh,
that's producing the show. So we
that's
thank
not
you
what I've
very
heard.
much. So thank you very much. And he also
Yeah.
thinks of Mr. Blue Sky when he sees blue sky. Yeah, so I am not really in the lead tonight at all. Not that I ever am. I mean, we all know Christy's the silver vixen of the show, but we have Smithy here with us tonight. So
Yes, we do.
what is the conversation?
Well, we were going to definitely touch on with Jenni and I, we can't not talk about politics. We can start talking about whatever put in topic and we will go to politics. So there's no way to not touch on what's going on right now, especially with the fascist, I'm not using it lightly, way that laws and legislation is being used against the most marginalized group of people in our country. So because of that, we'll be white people. Exactly.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I heard Matt Walsh give a talk about the
I'm leaving.
how the what minority is becoming extinct. Sorry, I didn't put enough X in that.
Oh, when is he leaving then?
Say what now?
I was hoping he would leave first.
Well, no, they're just becoming extinct. And I was thinking about the words he was saying and thinking how Christy's not even all the way white. Bless her poor soul. So he must be right. White people are the most marginalized community. That must be what you're talking about. Am I right?
No.
Or is there another one? Am I missing one that is more marginalized than white people's?
It's really hard, but I'm gonna go with the T of the LGBTQIA plus is what I'm gonna go
Okay,
with.
my turn. I would go with everybody on the planet.
Everyone else
are marginalizing him.
Flora, fauna, animal, mammal, you name it, we're all gonna go extinct. Yes, eventually. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. I wanted to start with Jenni telling us a little bit about
Yourself?
just a short synopsis of her background growing up, where, when, and then we'll move into when you get done with a little background of where you're from, what it was like growing up there. Hello, if nobody knows, Jenni has a lot to teach us tonight.
Let's see, how should I synopsize this? I was born a horse, but then I changed. No, I was born in 1954. Anybody out there that old? No, probably not. Most everybody my age is dead. Anyways, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right there on the lake. It was a beautiful lake. I miss it dearly because I'm living in Minnesota now.
That's right.
Growing up was it was very good in one aspect or so, and it was very, very awful in another aspect. I don't know who your audience generally is, or if they're familiar with me or not, but I'm a trans woman. I transitioned back in the 70s when it was more crudely done than it is now, when everybody didn't know a damn thing about trans. But I've been studying trans science and politics. You can't talk about trans without politics.
No.
Ever since I transitioned, so that means I got 44 years under my belt of leading studies and meeting other trans people and talking and learning and all that kind of good stuff. It's kind of what I do now. I'm actually retired from work. I'm that old. Oh God. but
I'm
it's
jealous.
I
I probably won't
it,
get to it.
oh, you will. Um, I lived my life as a stealth trans woman. What that means out there is nobody knew I was.
Right.
Okay, and I just lived my life, and there were, of course, some people who know. There, if you're going to stay in the same town where you used to be
Right.
before it all, there's going to be people who know you, and so some did, but any of the new people I met as my customers and things just did not know me, and that's just fine.
Right.
But about the time I was going to be retiring, and the way politics had been starting to go in this country, um, I decided it was time to come out of that stealth closet and start fighting for my community, because these people are trying to uh, literally unalive us.
Yes.
I'll bet it with language here. Do you have to care about that?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want on our channel. It's just YouTube. So whatever YouTube doesn't like, it is whatever you want. Sometimes
Okay.
I just randomly say fuck you, YouTube, just not on our channel. Just
Oh, we should wait
without
10 minutes. They only listen to for bad stuff in the first 10 minutes.
well,
Anyways, the climate for trans people has gotten so bad in the last few years that I felt obligated to come out, and probably going to have to end up spending the rest of my life dealing with trans issues and fighting off fascists and haters. So that's kind of a quick synopsis of my life. How about you, Christy?
yeah. Your back, that was pretty good, because I know a lot more about you, not everything obviously, but a lot more. You did really well of kind of like put it in one of those things that they put cars in and smush them. That's what you did. I don't know the technical name. I know there's probably one, but it's a car smusher. Okay, that's what I call it. A car smusher. SMOO, like, I'm sorry, SHMOO, smoosher. No, you have a very fascinating and unique, but also I can't imagine that there aren't small towns all over this nation with trans women, trans men, gay folk, non-binary, fluid, who are just terrified to, a little boy who just likes wearing all kinds of stuff, makeup, whatever, just a fluid, just a actually straight fluid person. I knew so many of them. Looking back now, it wasn't what it was then, and there always were people that were so nasty that I could understand why they wouldn't want to even show that part of them, even if it was just at home, like we're at their house hanging out, that they wouldn't want other people to see. I can't imagine. And I try to sit in the feeling of what it would be like to know that I'm in the wrong fucking body. And my heart breaks and swells at the same time, for all that we haven't done, have never done, and should be doing. And I can't wait to live in a world that we are doing, to accept and learn about all these people we share this planet with, that are different than us, that are the same as us, that have some differences, that have major differences. A human is a human is a human, and that is it. I love your story because, I mean, trailblazer sounds kind of silly, and but yeah, you were out there. There wasn't a medical playbook.
Oh no, actually there was.
There was. I've read a
That's one
lot
of the
from the ones from the 50s and 60s. This on this side of the world. I have only read little bits translated from the German medical science that we're doing in the 20s and 30s. And that's pretty awesome that they were so far ahead. That's why they were the first to get killed by, you know, the Nazi regime. But
Mhm.
most
Well, that's
people
because,
don't know
if you kill us all, there'll never be another gay person or trans person. It's the fact that we
Yeah,
go back 3,000 years doesn't mean anything.
or more. I think that as long as there has been humans, there has been all the humans, just like in all the other mammal species.
Oh no, undoubtedly. I'm just referring to
Yeah.
the actual documentation that in writing from back then that we can find and read.
Hold on. RB in chat is the winner of the night. He is born before you. Just letting you know. RB says that doesn't feel like a win, but it is a win. Congratulations. I really hope that I make those milestones as well. It is a win. RB is a legend, by the way, everyone. Shout out to RB.
We'll have to
All
meet
right.
sometime, RB.
Yeah. Yes. RB is great. RB and I have been chatting since before LEAH, since before the atheist stuff, back when I was just politics junkie during the daytime, and we would chat and chat. So RB is awesome. I love that. I see that person in our chat makes my heart really happy. I did have a question okay. And this might be really personal, and it's okay to say I don't want to answer that. We'll move right into the next one. Do you remember the age about? Not when you were confused. But when you said, this is without modern information that we have, but that this is fucking wrong, and this is why. Like that happening in your brain. This is wrong, I'm sure was, you lived in it, but this is why, this is the reason, this is what it is. Do you remember what that was, that age?
Yeah, actually I do. Age, it was before I started kindergarten. Beyond that, I couldn't tell you an exact number, or 3, 4, something, whatever. My only playmate in the area where we lived at that time was a girl, the same age as me, lived across the street. My parents and her parents were friends. And I'd go over and spend a day or two there, when mom and dad had to be out working or whatever. And what I remember about that first magic moment was just, huh?
Right.
I just, what?
Right.
What? And it's part of my personality now that I always assume that the other person is correct and I'm wrong. And so I was like that back then too. And so when I saw her in a you show me yours, I'll show you mine kind of thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I was just absolutely shocked that we weren't the same. And I assumed that I'm supposed to be like that.
Right.
And it's just been that way ever since. I have never lost that thought, never been talked out of it. No, it's come close. Not well, I shouldn't say that. I should follow that after I talked about. When my parents finally figured it out a few years later,
wow, you were so little.
They beat the crap out of me. Okay, and I learned that lesson very well, and it stuck with me for another 20 some years. And I didn't say a word to anybody.
What did they say was the reason that they were hitting you, though?
Well, that I was a bad child, and I don't, boys just don't do this kind of thing. I think they caught me wearing a dress for the first time, and it was one of Susie's. And they just went crazy with it. My parents were from the World War II Depression era,
right?
And those folks' attitudes about sexuality is even more rigid than the evangelicals and stuff today.
Yes, and very ignorant, and
yeah.
they did hold the thoughts of if we get them while they're young, we beat it out of them, we won't have the problem when they're older. That
Exactly.
yeah.
It actually was that event that put my mom and dad into hyper training mode, thinking that they could train me to be a boy by forcing me to take part in every masculine um, sort of thing that they could imagine. Like, when I got old enough, not right at 7, but when I got old enough, they made me join Little League. They made me join junior football and
Right. You did
the
all of it.
scouts, all that stuff.
All
And
of it. Weren't you really good at football though?
no,
Which one was it that you ended up being really good at?
well, I was pretty decent at billiards. That's-
Oh, brilliant. Well, I mean, that makes sense. I can see that one.
No, I was never good at any sport. In high school, I was trying to train myself the same way that my parents had tried, and I was figuring that, well, they just didn't do it well enough, or we just didn't find the right thing to flip the switch. And so I went into sports in high school, and I joined the swim team, which was a dumb idea because it was so embarrassing.
Oh, I
um,
loved this one thing.
yeah, but you didn't have to go topless, did you?
No, no, no. I can't. I
That
mean, I do when I say things like that. My brain immediately goes, "But you didn't have to do it," and then you said it out loud, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can't." If someone told me you have to wear these swimming trunks and that's all you can wear and go swimming, I wouldn't go swimming.
uh-huh. And I
Right.
didn't realize it, but I still knew that I had to do this to fix myself. Well, obviously that didn't work either. I was never very good at swimming. The best I ever did was I took 10th in city competition
I
in the
wasn't
200
any good. I
individual.
only placed 10th in the whole city.
Well,
Whatever.
my brother was like gold medal kind of guy, so I never was up to his standards. But in the
Wow.
200 individual medley, so that
That's
that was my swimming career. The other team people weren't very nice to me either.
I'm
Um,
sure. I'm sure. How
they like to how high school kids are. They like
I
to find your
do.
weak point and then just hammer away at you.
And I can't even imagine then. I think about my high school class of 95. So 94, 93, 92, 91, and 90. Those years, we knew what transgender was in an abstract. Nobody at our
Hmm.
school. We had gay kids at our school. One, two boys that I knew of, and I did kiss a few girls, so at least a few curious ones. And then there were 2 couples at our school that were, and they did get made fun of. I think the one girl lesbian couple, they were just ahead of their time. They were just cool. They just didn't care, and so whatever. But I think of if we would have had the information, the education, the knowledge that I have now at my fingertips, in my head, in my heart, and how easily accessible it is to go, God, I don't really understand. Let me go educate myself on this thing that wasn't an option, is what I'm saying. I can't even imagine going back, another couple decades to when
Well,
even
you were at least at the age where there was the internet formally didn't exist yet, but there was still dial-in things that you could find and work with on the computer and gain
yeah,
access
I
to
didn't
information
have a
that way.
computer of my own until my girls were in high school.
Oh
So
boy, holy
yeah,
cow!
yeah. My girls had them. I just analog girl stuck in a digital world. What are you gonna say? But yeah,
Well,
just
we certainly didn't have them either.
no, and the bullying would be so much more because there was no way to be like, look, you guys are fucking wrong. There wasn't.
I no, not only that, but I thought I deserved it. You know, I bought the whole line that I was defective and a horrible bad person and probably shouldn't exist. That's what a trans kid goes through. Is that sort of negativity. This is why 40% of the trans kids out there attempt suicide.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's they don't.
Yeah.
What we like to say in the community is we don't attempt suicide because we're trans. We commit suicide because of how badly society treats us.
Right. I've heard story after story after story after story of parents having this devastatingly depressed and sad and introvert child who is identifying as trans, and this is just their existence. It's just sad. And then they start going to therapy, and then gender affirming therapy, which, you know, is just social. There's nothing else. There's no prescriptions, there's no hormones, there's nothing else except for the social. And all of those stories, all of them say the parents all of a sudden were like, whoa, this is my kid. This nice to meet you. You're funny, you're happy, you're outgoing, you want to talk, because they are being seen for what they are. And I just, that alone, to me, I know there are a lot of people who this wouldn't work for, but for me, as a parent, if my child was so sad that they would rather unalive themselves than go another day, gets to be who they are and now isn't that way anymore, I'm okay with going the gender affirming. If I knew nothing else, if I had no education, I'm going to go the way that makes my child happy.
I have actually heard parents say that they would be happier if their child would just die. Yeah, that's how cold some people are about it.
Yeah.
Oh, you've heard that too, Mac?
Yeah, and also similar things I've heard. I mean, like, you know, when you hear the classic of like, well, they're dead to me, or I mean, I have a much milder version. But when and I mean, growing up to my family, being gay was one of the worst things you could be. But didn't even talk about trans. I didn't know what a trans person was until I was an adult.
Neither did I.
Yeah, isn't that funny? But no, when I came out as atheist, my brother let me know that my parents told him that they're like, man, it would have been better if he was gay. I was like, oh, well, I know what that means in their heart. So, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. So just, and it's not I don't know. I feel like there's so many things I could add to that statement I just said. But I would like to piggyback on something that Smithy, you had just said about.
You can use my actual real last name. I'm very transparent about this.
Okay. Can I just call you Jenny?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Jenny. Um, you had said that, like why people in the trans community, and not just the trans community, the LGBTQ community in general, why they try to or do commit suicide. It's not because of them, like being wrong with you, with the individual. It's the outside world not accepting it. It's a way out, right? It's a way out of a situation, which is the world. Excuse me, the community around you. that you want to get away from. And there's not a lot of ways out of community. But there is one really effective way that's more effective than any other. It doesn't pave the way for those that come after you. But I did want to point out the fact, like, to anyone who's listening who doesn't agree with that lifestyle, which isn't a choice, you, when talking about the suicide, because I'm sorry, the reason I'm focused on that is because I've heard that argument from someone I know personally, who has a lot of respect in my community, that says, you know, people like that just have mental problems. I mean, look at their suicide rates, right? So I've heard that argument personally. It's bothersome to me, and it's not because there's something wrong with the LGBT community. It's because there's not enough love to go around, to say it sweetly. There's not enough acceptance. There's not enough empathy, I think is the best word to use. There's not enough live and let live, because for some people, and I don't know what the percentages are, it's kind of easy to imagine yourself in someone else's shoes, but you know, the other half of people, it's not. But those people still think that they know what's best for you, even if they can't put themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. There's a lot. In fact, there's even more people today that know so much more about me than I ever knew about me. You know, so these haters that the Republican Party has created are pretty nasty.
Yeah, and it's there's so much of it. See, here's the segue. We can't not talk about politics. It seems to be republicanism, you know, right? It's almost that religion of how to be a good Christian Republican conservative, that makes it so hateful and dangerous. And I mean, that's kind of what this show is about, countering, right? We do agree that everyone should have the right to practice their religion and have their own gods, in the sense that makes them feel complete and whatnot. And we also believe in free speech, and that, you know, you choose your beliefs and you have your political ideals that are very hard to change. And you're allowed to have those. Like Christy and I have talked about multiple times that for better or for worse, I think that we should have a more like parliamentary system. I think that we should have excuse me, we should have a couple more Nazis in Congress, because they represent all the Nazis that we have in our fucking country. Because bad ideas grow in the dark, and they should be argued with out in the open, rather than just in a little echo chamber, and told that they can have marches and terrorize people every now and then. And because I believe that those people are convinced of their beliefs, and they can have those. You can have terrible beliefs, kind of like you can do drugs, right? You should be allowed to do drugs. You should be able to, you know, have the freedom to put whatever in your body that you want. But if you do something violent with your beliefs or while intoxicated, there are laws against violence. There are laws against assault. There are laws against stealing. There are laws about, you know, this, that, you know, there are crimes, right? But believing things is different, and something in your body, like bodily autonomy, is different. I'm a little worried I'm going on too much of a rant, so stop me whenever you want. But I feel like, as a humanist, as we are the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, we want to promote empathy and understanding, and talking to someone in the trans community is huge. It's the best way to say it. It's a huge, great example of that, because people don't live your life, right? So you coming on and telling your story, your life, and your point of view is something that humanizes you, which is so important because, as you said, so many fascists on the right want to dehumanize you. And then, well, that's exactly what the Nazis did, right? That's exactly what they did. So they're not killing humans, they're just killing, messed up animals. And skipping over the fact that humans are animals. Again, if you want to piggyback on anytime, please do. I don't want to carry the whole conversation.
Some humans are more animals than the others.
Yeah, much more animalistic. Absolutely. I think, and let me know what you think of this idea. Before I even knew what the term humanist was, I said that I was a humanitarian because I didn't know another word, but I understood what I was going for.
You're so cute.
Right? I was cute back in the day. What happened?
Jenny, Mac, do you guys both have your chat thing up on the side on the screen?
No.
Okay.
I'm on my phone. I don't have that much territory.
All right.
I can call it up.
No, if you're on your phone, you wouldn't be able to see it.
Do I need to be louder?
Well, Mac is really quiet. Jenny's really loud. I don't know how I sound because I can't hear.
You're right.
But I turn it all the way up when Mac talks, and then I turn it nearly all the way down when Jenny talks.
Yeah.
I have no ability to change my volume or anything.
Yeah, no, Jenny, you're fine. Mac always talks really quiet during every show. I promise.
That's not true. I've never talked quiet once in my life.
Quiet to them.
So
just whisper.
The humanism, the humanitarian. I was going from the root humane, and I described it in my second or third video I ever made on my channel, which I wasn't even really great skeptic yet. I said that we should care about humans as human beings, and we should be more humane, like the root of the word. Like we shouldn't just be great towards our fellow humans. We should also be great towards other living creatures. We should be humane towards them. And I like that. So like that's kind of been one of my reasonings. It's just like trying to take that root of the word, and trying to be more human and humane and loving and empathetic, and live and let live at the very bare minimum. And
that would be nice.
Everyone?
I just do not understand. I mean, okay, yeah, I guess I have a little bit of understanding about it, but I can't understand why people choose to take so much time and energy out of their life to go to a group of people, trans people, who know, every trans person knows biology one hell of a lot more than the general public, and present us with statements like, oh, well, 100 years from now, if they dig up your bones, they're going to know. Dude, I'll be dead. What do I care? And or saying, well, you can't change your genetics. You're still a man. and it's like, you people, don't you think you're telling us something we don't know?
Right.
It's, you think you're going to hurt us by saying these things? We've hurt ourselves with those things a long time ago. You
Mhm.
can't hurt me anymore. But they still would just go on and on and on and on for years. That we have some people that are consistent trolls and coming after us.
There are.
It's just amazing how bad they are.
These are adult people who make $40,000 per episode on Fox News. Let's see. Hannity's making $41,000 every single episode, somewhere in there. That's just
Yeah, me
insane.
too.
Yeah, that's insane. But they're saying those same, what you just said. You'll never be a woman. You'll never be a man. To me, that argument, it just dawned on me when you were saying it, is very similar to the I ain't come from no damn monkey. There's still monkeys right there.
You know what
Well,
I
actually, we
found?
didn't come from monkeys. We came from apes.
Right, but I understand that. Or I didn't come from no chimps. The chimps are right there, to simplify it. But it doesn't, I'm not saying they're similar as in, the meaning, as in the ignorance. It just, you're not understanding the concept. Of course, the person you're telling that bigoted bullshit to, of course they get that. They live with it all day, every day, as you said. And putting myself in shoes of someone, it is very difficult for a lot of people. I understand. I'm very empathetic, and the first thing I try to do is, how would I feel? This has always been one of the harder ones, because I've never looked down and been like, what the fuck? I've been like, oh, hey, what's up, girl? So it's to put myself in a position where that would be the worst thing. Is, how can you not have empathy for someone, another human, in any regard, but in especially that regard? And then take it further. You're an asshole, you're a bigot. We're talking about children now. This child, as you said, you were a, still a toddler. They know. And I'm not saying that many of them won't change their minds. Sure, whatever. However, your own body. I knew a lot. I knew things were wrong that were being done to me at age 4 and age 5. I was too scared to say anything. That's what I tried to equate it to. I understood that these things were wrong, not that you discovering yourself is wrong, just that mentality of shame now. I am wrong. I did wrong. I'm disgusting. I cannot tell anyone, even though I don't quite grasp that this is wrong. You didn't have someone else doing to your body the things that were wrong. They were saying you are wrong. And I want to live in a society where, MLK's they sound so simple, but we've not realized them yet as a society, where people are judged on their merit. I don't need to see what's in your pants, or know who you're dating, or what you do for a living, or how much you make. I don't care. Did you do that nice thing when someone fell over? Very simple things. Are you a good person? Do you care? These things are so much more important. However, I have 2 daughters. Mac has 6 children. So
Oh my God.
these are the
I didn't know
future.
that.
Yes.
You that explains why you look tired. Yes.
Hey!
He has 2 boys, and Rachel has a boy and 3 girls. So there are 3 boys and 3 girls. So it's literally the Brady Bunch.
Neat. I always wanted a sister. I have one older brother by a year and a half and a younger brother by 5.5 years. And I just always wish that my younger brother was my sister. But he was normal. I was the sister. Who knew that?
So your family
It's so weird.
now, is it recent that it's just is what it is and there's no drama? You can just walk in for dinner.
My two brothers were the only people in our family, and that's including all the cousins and aunts and uncles and all that stuff, who would tolerate me. I used to say they accepted me, but as time has gone on, I've realized that they really are not comfortable with me. They just tolerate me because they feel some obligation to do that. They don't dead name me, they don't misgender me or anything like that, and they never did. But in the 44 years since I told them about myself, neither of them has ever asked me a single question whatsoever. And I know both of these guys have no knowledge of human being physiology whatsoever. And how can you not have a single question about your own sibling? So just that whole package together, I know they really don't care. When I told them I'm moving up to Minnesota, I could see the relief on their face because I'm an inconvenience. I'm embarrassing for them.
I'm so
sorry.
sorry.
Such is life. Well, no, I'm mostly over it.
Beanie is not happy about this. He had to leave.
Sorry, Beanie.
No, it's not you. He would love you, I promise. He loves the ladies. Promise.
The life that my parents ended up giving me, they had no idea either that this was what I was. Okay, I was born in 1954. Christine Jorgensen showed up on the American stage and became the darling of the media in 1952, I think it was 1951, 1952.
Wow.
And if you don't know who that is, Christine Jorgensen was touted as the first American to go to Denmark or Copenhagen or whatever and have a sex change is how they like to call it. But she wasn't. There were other people that went before her, but she was the first that got notable over the whole damn thing.
Right.
And so I knew that I know now that my parents wouldn't have had much exposure to that. Now my mom was a brilliant woman. I mean, just amazingly brilliant. She was technically a nurse, but in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that's all that they ever were, as a registered nurse. But my mom was an emergency nurse, and she became the head nurse in the entire emergency department, the biggest one in Wisconsin. And if she was around today and still practicing, she would be considered like a nurse practitioner type level, which is pretty much like a doctor, except they have to be checked out and watched for certain things legally. So she had all these medical books around all the time. It didn't mean nothing to me until I was about 12, 13, and I could read proficiently and had a better understanding of language and blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to find out about myself. And so I had all these sexual words that I had heard by that time. And I started looking them up in her Tabor Encyclopedic Medical Dictionary. And, I would find things like homosexual, heterosexual, transvestite, hermaphrodite, all these ancient terms which are now considered quite slurry.
Right.
And I was just trying to read it, and I'm going, oh, well, maybe I'm that. Oh, maybe I'm that. Oh, maybe I'm that. Not really understanding it, but realizing that there's lots of things out there. And then magically, it was just such a twist of fate. My brother and I were unloading some piles of newspapers and magazines from my grandmother's basement and going to take them to the dump for her. We didn't have recycling things then. And I dropped a load that I was carrying, and a magazine fell out of the pile, a Look magazine, if anybody remembers that. And it actually opened up to one particular page that was the beginning of a story about a trans woman that they had written about. It was a 69 or 70
Oh my God. And how old
issue.
are you now?
69 would have been 14.
Okay.
54, 60. Yeah, later in the month I would turn 15. Anyways, and I saw it, and I didn't know what it was, but I saw this word, transsexual. It was the first time I'd ever seen that word. I had no idea what it meant, but I saw that it said sex, and it said trans, and I remembered, well, I saw this other word, transvestite, that had trans, and that this was about sex. So I assumed that it was something about sex that I didn't know. So I grabbed it and hid it, and took it home and read it cover to cover, probably 200 or 300 times.
Jesus.
In my dark room in the basement that nobody came into because they didn't know anything about photography.
Wow.
Hey, Jenny.
Yeah.
Just by chance. A little bit low enough. Was that it?
Holy shit! Yes, that is it. Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've only known one other person who's ever seen that magazine or remembers having seen that magazine. That's another trans woman who's in the community around here.
My ex's family bought a house when I was still with her at one point, and they had a stack of Look magazines. One of them had Princess Diana on them. They were probably worth a bit. But yeah, you were right. It was January of 70.
70. Okay.
So good memory. But
yeah.
Well, I really did read that thing. I had to have read it at least 100 times, and probably more. It was only about a 4 or 5 page article with some pictures. And it's just as I read it, I began to put things together, and I realized this is what I am. This is who I am.
Wow.
It wasn't a question of wondering. It was just a question of saying, oh, everything they pointed out, I had known about myself as well. And it was a big moment of discovery. But still, the public had no idea about that word and the dynamics.
You didn't have anyone to now go talk to about this.
No, absolutely not.
Life changed discovery.
This was the era on mainstream TV. Cable barely existed, where talk shows began to proliferate. And every talk show had a trans person on because it was just, sells papers. And they always asked the same stupid questions and never made any progress or attempted to teach anything about it. It was just for the sensationalism of it. I of course didn't know any better either. And I tried, if I ever heard about a TV show having a trans person on, I would, find a way to watch that with nobody knowing that I was watching it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hard when you only got one TV in the house.
Yeah. Did it give you any comfort in the time that, even though it was being exploited at that time, I noticed you said that, the public still didn't really know anything about that word, but they did, because they printed it in the magazine. They had people on, and it was still very much taboo, but there was a movement underneath it. There was enough attention being made for it to get to your eyes and explain it well enough to you that that's how you figured out that's where you lie in the grand scheme of things. Did that viewpoint ever kind of come to you, to kind of give you comfort, or did you just see mostly the mockery of it, and it mostly scared you to just understand?
There were no positive images represented in the media about trans people. They put us in the same class as drag queens, and we were always the psychotic on the movie who was running up and stabbing people in the dark. It was just horrible and negative, and it had been that way. And in the media, for 100 or more years. That's the way trans people, they didn't know they're trans, but the whole cross-dressing phenomenon and culture, it was all blended in as one. So they just didn't have any particular separation and understanding.
They were just
and so,
sick people, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's rightfully so, because at that time, medical science did have us classified as a mental illness. That would have been, you could find it if you get an old DSM-3, which is a diagnostics and a statistical manual, tell you all about different diagnoses and names of disorders and stuff. In there, we were medical, or mentally ill.
If I
And it did
remember,
really.
sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No.
I don't know if it's relevant. Maybe it is.
Go ahead.
The old cartoon, Looney Tunes.
Oh yes.
Each character has a loony part about them. Daffy Duck was like literally like a psychopath.
Hey, I like Daffy.
And Bugs Bunny was a gender confused cross-dresser.
Yes,
and that was
Bugs Bunny. I've been saying it for years. Bugs Bunny made me trans.
I love it.
Hey,
I love
listen,
it.
Bugs Bunny had those
It was his
eyelashes.
problem.
No,
That's
I
what I
see it.
wanted to bring to the conversation. And then
Actually,
Porky Pig had a
Bugs
stutter.
Bunny
Was my guy.
Bugs Bunny was like pretty much the most positive image you could have of trans people at that time. It was, yes, it was comedy, and yes, it was a cartoon, and it was, the Bugs was actually more of a character actor, on a stage, pretending they're this or that, as opposed to a human with an issue. But it still, had enough connect in it that I would watch it and go, I'd get nervous because I assume this is one of the worst parts about it, is you will watch something like that, or you'll be in a situation where sexuality or cross-dressing or something like that comes up, and I know what I know I am, but nobody else does, but it feels like they're going to find out just because we're talking about this. And so you're always on this heightened alert, at level 10, scared to death that your secret's going to come out and you're going to get beat the heck. So it was just it was a very difficult place to come from. Anyways, with my mom, I think she put 2 and 2 together.
Yes.
And figured out what's going on with me. I don't know if she knew the word transsexual, or that was what we were called then, or not. But a year or so after they discovered me, and I was going to Little League and Scouts and all that crap, when nobody else was home, Mom was teaching me things like cooking and ironing and doing the laundry and sewing and all these, binary girl things.
Yeah,
and I finally, after a few years after that, I asked Mom, why are you making me learn these things, and Gary and John don't have to do anything? And she says, oh, you're just going to need to know this stuff someday, is all she said. And I didn't put it together then. I said, no, this doesn't make any sense. Duh. But I realized later in life now that what she was up to.
Yeah, you had mentioned before in one of our conversations that, in front of your dad, in front of others, not that she would be 2 different people. You never said anything like that. It's just those little nuggets of acceptance, those little nuggets that showed that she wanted to be around the real you. She did that throughout your life. It just wasn't shared with anyone.
Yeah. And honest to God, I'm a very oblivious lots of times. I have no idea what's actually going on, and people have to,
You guys,
give
hold
me one in
on,
the
hold
ribs
on.
and saying, "Hey, look at this."
No. Jen, don't let her do this. She's so fucking smart that the monotony, like, she gets bored is what she's really trying to say, and she doesn't pay attention to here and here because she's got tunnel vision on whatever she's learning. She can take apart a car and put it back together without a manual. So I don't want to hear like you don't pay attention. You just don't have time for the hears is all it is. Yeah.
Okay,
How about
I'll
You're super smart.
I'll just accept
Okay,
that.
you're a super smart dingbat. Okay, sometimes you're a dingbat.
Um,
I'm the dingbat in me recognizes and loves the dingbat in you.
thank you.
Domestic.
Yeah, I don't. Let's see. I don't know what to say beyond this. Yeah, I kept my secret from my parents all through my 20s, and when I finally hit 27, I had this job in social services. That's what I was going into after college and things like that. I was in the administration of a social service agency.
I bet you were really good at social service.
Actually, I thought I was.
I know. I can imagine only the lucky few that got you as there, because you would want to make a difference.
Oh, I wasn't doing therapy or anything like that. I was
No, social.
my administration was to be in charge of recruiting volunteers, training them, and all that kind of stuff to staff a 24 hours, 7 day a week, 365 crisis intervention hotline.
Where was this?
This is in Milwaukee.
Okay, Milwaukee. Yeah.
And
you were
we got 30,000 calls a month. No, I was 27. See, I've never marked any of this down. Nowadays these kids go through their transition and stuff, and they write things down and keep their history to the minute.
Yeah, you didn't want any evidence. It's different.
Well, I didn't think there was any reason to, and it just didn't occur to me that I should keep a record. And I wish I did at this point, because it just make understanding or remembering easier. But anyways, I was working on this project at work. We did an information and referral handbook with all the names of every helping profession, to put them into one list so other agencies could have this manual and look up things that they need to know. Where am I going to send this runaway kid? Well, Pathfinders. Where are you going to send this mom who's in a domestic violence situation? Send her there, or this place or that place. And it was really a very important and a first time kind of ever documentation. Nobody had done this before. This is in the 70s when all the agencies that we know about now today started in the 70s with a bunch of damn hippies who created them through grassroots organizing, volunteers, begging for money, begging for space, and most of them died, and lots of them went on to actual mainstream places now.
Wow.
So we were doing vital work, and
yeah.
I believed it, and I really enjoyed it. And I was happy to be making a difference. So anyways, I was doing this. My part of the project was to take last year's manual, go down the list and call and verify each person or each agency, get a boss on there somewhere so that they can confirm the information that you still want to be in the manual, blah, blah, blah. And I was handed the next day or one day my load of verifications, and I had RST was all I had. I had to get through those letters of the alphabet. And when I got to S, it came up on that one. It's called sexuality. And I ran into that word again, that transsexual thing. There were two therapists in that area at that time that were willing to put their names down as being experienced and willing to take clients. One was Gretchen, and the other one was Lynn. And I ended up talking to Lynn to verify her information. And this area is completely blank to me because I don't remember any of it. This is based on what you told me, what happened on the phone call. So at one point I must have just blacked out or disassociated completely. And I broke down, and she said I was crying and telling my life story and threatening suicide and all this kind of stuff. And she said, well, you're going to come in here tomorrow. And I did. And that's where the whole treatment thing started. I saw her a few times just to, get out of the crisis period. And after that, I started, when I was realizing what I am and what I have to do, I started, digging up resources and finding out, where do I go for this? Where do I go for that? Who do I see for that? What do I have to learn? And at that point, I discovered there was about 3 books on it in the library. 2 of them written by a guy who was absolutely a hack, but I didn't know that. Yeah, he was completely besmirched out of the business. John Money. I can say his name. It's public information. John Money. He was out of John Hopkins Hospital, and he did some rather unethical things, and it all backfired. It went bad because his theories were wrong. He was playing with people's lives. Anyways, so basically over that period from 27, 26, 27, in 79, I started to look at stuff in 78 and then a little more in 79. And by the time 1980 rolled around, I was seeing Lynn every week, nonstop. And I had learned just huge volumes of stuff. And I found that there was another program up in Minneapolis here that I had to go to at the University of Minnesota. I had to drive 6 hours to get services.
Wow.
That's how hard it was to get treatment back then. So I was seeing Lean, I was seeing the program in human sexuality, and this is where nowadays all the kids are talking about. They have words like true scum, okay, and they have words like medicalists or something. What they're griping about is gatekeepers, people who set up rules and expectations to allow you to go through this process and things you have to accomplish, and that before they will, give you things like hormones, which are a very dangerous drug if used wrong. And they just, well, why are you making me do this? I'm an adult. I can make my own decisions. Well, yeah, you can, but you need to understand what you're doing, and I'm not just going to give this to you. I'm going to explain it to you first.
Right.
And people are really resistant to that. Well, when I was in it, you basically had to get approval to go to the bathroom. Okay. It was very, very rigid. Everybody had to take a certain battery of psychological tests. I had to sit for 2 days to take the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. It's like this 800 word questions, and
Jesus
oh my
Christ.
God, it just took forever.
Yes, I love that you're explaining how arduous it was for you. And I don't think that, I do believe that there are a untold number of ignorance. I know a lot of people are ignorant and don't understand that the word ignorance doesn't mean anything bad about you. It just means you don't understand this. And there are so many that think, my kid said this, therefore now everybody's pushing them to be fill in all the stuff. For this particular one, it is, my kid came home on Monday, my son, we'll use boy, and says that he's a girl. On Tuesday refuses to put boy clothes on, and So I take him to the doctor, and now they have him on hormones. And none of it works like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It
Yeah,
doesn't.
they
That
love to
little
lie about
child
it.
is not going to be on anything for a very long time. They have to make
It do-
sure
it
that.
does it doesn't even work that way for adults. Okay.
Thank
You
you.
just don't
you.
go to a doctor and say I want hormones and get them and grow boobs in a year. It just doesn't
Oh,
work that way.
Mac
We
raises
had the
she
gatekeeping. We
probably
had.
can't see you. Mac raises his hand when he has a question. So I will let you know.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yes, Matt.
I try not to cut people off mid sentence. So I raise my hand so Christy knows
nice.
That's why I'm probably bad at debates.
No.
What I wanted to point out right there is well, that's a lie, right? That's a lie that anyone that looks, I wouldn't say in your line, to be clear, that Republicans say that, whenever, my 5-year-old boy puts on girl clothes, once or twice, well, we take him to the doctor, they put him on hormones, whatever. It's a lie, right?
Yeah.
It's a lie in service, is what it is, right? Not that neither of you know this, but I feel like it needs to be said in this conversation, like explicitly. And this is one of the issues with the conservative side of politics, and also a lot of the neoliberal side. That if you have to white lie a little bit, or if you have to heavy lie for Jesus, if you have to lie for Jesus, it's okay because you're lying for Jesus, right? Or if you're lying because it's right in any fashion, then it's okay, right? I understand to a point why feeling like if you're lying for the right reason, I get it. I get the logic behind it, right? It's not hard to try to think of a reason why lying is okay. You can fool yourself into it. But what people don't understand, a lot of people, even on our side, is that lying for a good reason could just be mistaken as a bad argument, right? You don't have an argument against the position. You just think it's wrong and you need to convince other people, and you don't actually have an argument, so you just lie about it because you don't have an argument. And I just wanted to make sure I said that during this conversation, because that's so often what happens is when you're talking about politics and religion and any kind of moral argument, because there's so many conservatives that are super religious, and when you strip it down, it's because, well, the Bible speaks against the LGBT community, against gay people, or gay sex, or Sodom and Gomorrah. It's just there's not really a real argument there, except that. So, like, their argument is the Bible, so that is their argument. But if they don't have one other than that, they are just lying for Jesus, right? And just, well, Timmy said that he likes to wear girl clothes, so we took him to the doctor, and Doc said that he's actually trans. And that's how easy it is. So we need to fight against this thing, because doesn't that sound stupid? Because it does sound stupid. If that was
it is stupid,
I would probably be against it.
If you or anybody else wants to know about what's going on today, I tell you what. First, I want to finish the connection between the gatekeeping of yore and today. So
please,
let me
I just
get through that real quick.
Please continue.
I will address that for sure right after. So we had to take all these psych things and blah, blah, blah. I was required to drive to Minneapolis and be in this group therapy thing once a week, and that went on for months and months. And I had to do certain things over a certain amount of time before I would be allowed to advance to the next thing. For example, uh, you would have to be known to cross-dress in the gender clothes of the gender of your choice that you're moving towards. There were, male to female, female to male, and after you had done that for a year, then they would let you start on hormones. Okay, so you had to completely fake everything at the beginning without any actual medical assistance for you, that you needed. And then once you started that, they'd start them at a low dose, and they wouldn't move them up until they tested you 10, 20 times to make sure that you're not being poisoned, which they actually were doing.
Question, may I?
Yeah.
With the cross-dressing for a year, do you think, and I mean, I'm sure you know better than I do, so I'm genuinely asking, not just for the audience, but for myself. Do you think that because they want you to cross-dress for a year before they would even give you hormone therapy, is it because they figured, do you think the general consensus was in some way, you're just trying to fake it till you make it, so we're going to see how much you will actually fake it till you make it before we help you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
An interesting dynamic developed.
Okay.
It got so well known between transgender people, transsexuals, back in the day. What was expected, that it was something that people talked about, and person A would tell person B about it, who just got in yesterday into the program, and well, this is what they're going to make you do, this is what they're going to expect, and all of a sudden everybody had the same story, knew exactly what they had to do to make it or fake it, and so that we could achieve what we were hoping for, which is, in those days, virtually everybody who went through a program were medically transitioned as far as surgical means. And so it was kind of incestuous that way, and that people had to make sure that they got it through, because it was devastating if you've been going after this all your life before that, and then in this formal program for a year or so, and then they say, oh no, we don't think you're good enough, bye. You're going to have some people 6 feet under. And so we followed their rules, we lived by their gatekeeping, so that we would get what we needed. And eventually you got out of the program because they signed you off and said, you can go have surgery if you want now. Oh wait, we need 3 doctors to say that to you, not just one. Oh, and a therapist, we need them to say that too.
Right.
And so it was real annoying. Now, what the kids of today don't know, I'm sure they would understand the first time they heard it, is what we went through for them. We were guinea pigs, okay?
Mhm.
And what they learned from us, good and bad,
Yeah.
they applied to all the kids nowadays. And
Yeah.
so they don't have to go through as much gatekeeping, because they know this part is useless. There's no purpose to this. There's no purpose to that. And so it's gotten significantly better. But it's still the dynamic that the medical doctors and social workers and stuff like that know that they're putting their career on the line in things like this, and they have to have a certain level of assurance that they're not going to go to fucking court and get sued to death. The process of therapy and transition are as much to weed out the people who aren't appropriate for transition.
Right.
Nobody tells you that you're not. You tell yourself, okay? And it's the same thing, that dynamic that goes on today with children is, okay, you got a kid, mommy, I want a dress. Great, here's your dress. If the kid's legitimately has some kind of transition, that's not going to stop, okay? And if they don't have a legitimate trans issue, it's just going to be a fad that they go through, and now they don't do that anymore. And people just don't want to hear that. If you listen to the people who are on the attack today, They all have the same accusations. They all have used the same words. They use the same sentences in many cases. It's because they've all heard what everybody else is about. Well, these people are this and these people are that, blah, blah, blah. And they're just in this gigantic echo chamber of the right, which we saw in every presidential election for the last 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
So it's hard to combat because they're so they believe that they heard this from experts, and they didn't. Okay, the people, the whole attack, the whole scenario of what's going on today was developed. It started to be developed after 2015, when gay marriage was basically approved, and the right wing lost one of their number one targets for diversion and creating fear,
Yes.
you know,
Wedge.
and
Wedge
that kind of
issue.
mess.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a gigantic wedge
They
issue.
needed a new wedge issue.
Well, I call it, they needed a new target, and so they painted one on our backs.
For sure.
Now, what people don't know, because this was hidden, and in fact, I didn't even know that this was going on. I kind of figured something like that might be going on, but only in this last year, we have learned by way of Mother Jones magazine, and this is all online. You can look it up. Did an article about this group of 2,603 emails that were leaked to the press, to Mother Jones, where in the emails, all these politicians, all these religious leaders, all these paid henchmen, all these state representatives and legislators of various sorts, began talking to each other and making plans and deciding how we are going to tear apart trans people and make them, well, to destroy them, basically. What words are going to be best to make this accusation or that accusation? How do we lie about this? How do we lie about that? We all have to get together and be a united front. And the whole and the emails go all the way back to 2019. Okay, and you can read about these bastards that are just out there planning lies. This is how we will lie. This is what we will say. And then they went even further, where they developed their own little gang of supposed doctors and things that they would bring to testimony. You know how, like, trials, there's trial lawyers or doctors, that's all they do when they retire, is they go and pretend they're an expert and this or that to convict someone. Well, these guys were pretending that they were experts in trans, and saying the exact same things every time they go to any state, citing these studies which are completely either incorrect or invalid, or terrible patient selection for who's in the study. Just studies that are not real. I mean, one of these doctors, trans person, expert in trans people, was a dentist. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one is some old crotchety retired guy, and his office is next to a pizza place. Okay, in a strip mall. Okay, these are not people who actually know what they're talking about. And if you take the time and look at the actual studies that they're citing, you can just see you do need to have an understanding of statistics to really get at them and tear them apart. But you see exactly where the lies came from, and how they're manipulating people. And the fanboys and fangirls on the right are all only just way too happy to hear what they say and just repeat it and keep saying the same thing over and over and over. And it's working, is the tragedy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we have 500 laws out there right now that are aiming at the transgender community to destroy us. They have passed things like no child in the state of Florida is allowed to go to get any sort of transgender care, therapy, medical, hormones, none of it. You can't have any of it. And if you're parents and you do this with your kid, we're going to take you to jail for being for child abuse.
Yeah, they
Okay.
will literally, the laws, I know, I live here in Florida. The state can literally come into your home. Let's say a scenario, mom, dad, 3 kids. The middle kid is the trans kid. Because those parents affirm that child, not only will they take the trans child from the home, they will take the other 2 children from that home, because you are doing illegal things, aka child abuse. However, there's other scenarios. Let's say the parent is trans, right? So 2 parents, one is trans, and they have 1 to 2 kids, doesn't, whatever, name it. They can be called on. Someone can pick up the phone and say there is a trans parent next door with 2 children. They will take your children from you in the state of Florida. You cannot be in a home.
And the person who makes the call will get a reward of $10,000 to $30,000.
Yes, I know.
They put a bounty on our heads. And it's even worse than that. If I'm a trans person and I'm a parent, and I got 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, doesn't matter, and I take a vacation down to Disneyland, they will grab my children then. And I'm not even a resident of your state, and I'm not even having them treated in your state, but they still come and arrest me and take the children away and into the Child Protective Services. If a family in Florida, there's 19 states that are doing the same thing here. If a family in Florida is going to move so that their child doesn't commit suicide, the states have developed laws that we will come to the state where you went to, and we will kidnap you and bring you back and make you face charges. Okay. Now, none of this is constitutional, but that doesn't mean they can't pass laws about it and begin to engage those laws. And that's what they're doing. That's what's happening. This whole thing about the bathroom bill. Oh man, this one just pisses me off more than any of them. The bathroom argument. Oh, you have those trans women in the restroom, and they're going to molest these children or children or these other women in there. It's just not safe for women. Well, this particular concept came out of the UK. The UK is going through the exact same thing we are right now, except it's even worse. That was like one of the first issues that came up into the community and the culture, and that people started to freak out about. And these lay people who know nothing were frightened into believing all this happens. That scenario was developed by a couple of guys in a bar. Okay. And they developed the lie, how they would address the lie, how they would describe the lie. To have the most effectiveness is putting as many people into fear and suspicion as possible. A year or so ago, I don't remember precisely when, you can look it up. It's out there. There's a magazine called Pink News, and it's online, and you can go look it up. And you can read the story about the interview with these 2 guys where they admitted that it was a lie, and they did it purposely, and that none of it's true. And it was just, they're basically just fucking around, and fed it to this movement and stuff. And to this day, people still say, "Oh, you let those women in there, and they're going to molest other women." And it's so totally not true.
Where? I mean, not that I want to go, but I mean, I have a friend that might want to go. No one's going to tell me where.
What are you going to do? Somebody's going to drag you into the stall? They're not that big,
don't drag me.
Oh, God Almighty! And so
it's just a little patience.
It's just incredibly ridiculous that all this is going on. The children in athletics and stuff. Okay, when you're dealing with athletics, with kids who are 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. There is virtually no adult development in that child. And some little boy is no different than some little girl. Okay.
Actually,
Both.
actually, in third, fourth, and fifth grade, girls can kick most of the boys' asses.
Well,
So
that's true. That's
just
true.
saying.
And so they've come with it. You can't let these boys take over women's sports. Well, we're not talking about women, we're talking about children in Little League.
Right.
And secondly, the kids are just kids and there's no differences. When you want to talk about adults in that, well, then it's going to be a bit of a different story. And anybody who doesn't agree with that, I think is a little silly.
Yeah.
But if you take these prepubescent kids, the sports thing is no difference. Now, these states are going through and just making all these laws and spending tens of thousands of dollars on developing these laws and getting them passed, and taking up the time of the legislature so they're not dealing with important things like climate change and things that really matter.
They don't have to govern if they're making legislation for stuff that doesn't exist.
And then you ask them, well, how many of these trans student athletes do you have? Well, we had one, but he graduated. I'm dead serious. Okay, they had one in Texas, and they graduated. Another one that they let's see now, it was a female to male child. They were in the middle teens, like 14, 15, so they had hit puberties and stuff like this, and were allowed to take hormones with parents' permission and doctors' permission. And so this child was getting testosterone. Well, we all know what testosterone does to a little boy when they hit puberty. It makes them grow wide shoulders and big, strong muscles, and drops their voice and all these other things of puberty. Well, they passed this law, and so they forced this boy, a trans boy, to not wrestle with the boys anymore. You got to go wrestle with the girls. Okay, so they set the whole thing up that we're going to destroy this girls wrestling situation because we're putting a girl who has had a year or two of hormones of testosterone, and they are not a physiological girl anymore. But you're still going to do this to them. It's like in the bathroom bill, they're making a law say, well, you can only use the bathroom of your gender on your birth certificate, which mine, by the way, says female, and so you're going to end up with trans women who look like a goddamn movie star going into the men's room, okay, which is not safe for them. And you're going to have these trans men who've been working out in the weight room for years, and now have 20-inch biceps and abs to kill for, and you're going to make them go into the women's room?
Yeah.
Okay, this is what's actually happening. Well, you know who the people are actually paying the price? The cis woman, the non-trans woman, who maybe doesn't reach Hollywood standards of beauty. Okay, now we all know that there's women who, can look kind of rough, and that's just fine. But they're the ones who get cited as being the trans person, because the assumption and stereotype is that they're just men in dresses. And so they look for the most masculine possible woman going into a bathroom, and they nail them. And then it turns out they're not trans, but they still nail them. They still go to jail. They still have to get a lawyer to get out.
We have a message in chat talking about what you're talking about. DeSantis stood up for a parent who was very upset because a trans girl was allowed on the high school swim team. The daughter of the parents who were upset because their daughter came in 17th instead of 16th in the place she deserved. Like, I'm like, that doesn't. Oh. And then before I forget and we move completely on, it was in the chat a little bit ago. Seemingly unrelated question, but still a question for Jenni. This is from my mate Arby. It says, "Do you remember a big club in Milwaukee called the Attic West?
Yes, that was on 107th and Silver Spring. I
His
had been
band
there
played
many
there.
times.
His
I
band
had been
played
there
there
many times.
in the
I had been there
1970s.
many times trying to pick up a date and was never successful. I've never gotten a date out of any bar ever. I was really pretty bad at that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
wonder why. But yeah,
Well,
the Atticus was a place. It was a brand new building and stuff, and people were filthy rich who put it together. So I mean, it wasn't like this hellhole, but it was a typical 1970s scummy scene of binary dating. It was just awful that way. The big hair and the well, I won't go into it anymore. But yes, I remember the West very well.
that's funny.
I actually grew up in that generalized neighborhood of that place
Oh
in,
shit.
in
Oh, see,
Milwaukee.
you and RB need to have a little chat and talk about all the cool stuff. I mean, obviously, you guys know about the same stuff, and I love RB. RB is I pretty much was like, you in this chat have to come with me where I go. We're getting my pocket. Let's go.
Okay,
Yeah, no,
I'll
good stuff.
go.
Yeah, you can get my pocket. Well, wait, I don't have I only have a prison pocket right now. And if you don't know what a prison pocket is, you're not old enough for this channel.
Oh, I think I know what that is.
It took me a little bit too when I was like,
Mhm.
and then I was like, wait,
It's not the pocket
every
it's not the pocket I would store my phone in temporarily, huh?
Usually not. Last resort,
Nora
you get Cedar
Nora
Point.
Buick, no phones, no Buick.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know. Mac maybe he's so skinny he has to run around in the shower to get wet.
so let's go on with this Abel fable. Um, so the scum that are out there today are lying scum. Nothing they say is true. They are not to be trusted. They are going to do anything they possibly can and tell any lie they possibly think up to make it bad for trans people. There are many uh, evangelical preachers, and this is
Right.
all out of the Southern Baptist Convention. I'm not going to mince words. This is all Southern Baptist Convention horrors, where the preacher has stood up at his pulpit and said on a Sunday, "We need to take all these trans people, line them up against the wall, and shoot them in the back of the head."
I remember. Yep.
Okay, um, my, you're so Christian. Um,
There's no love
it's
like Christian hate.
yeah.
Although it does say that. He reads it verbatim.
Uh-huh. And he's yelling it. He's not just saying it, he's yelling it.
And you can hear the people in his congregation saying, yes, sir, and amen, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's dangerous. It's just flat out dangerous. And then they've been joined by now the Proud Boys and the Patriot Front. Love to go to drag shows. I shouldn't say drag shows. A book reading for children by a drag person, a drag performer. There's no dancing going on. There's no sex going on. There's no bawdiness going on. But it's this person in drag and they're reading a book, and the kids love it. But the Patriot Front and the Proud Boys have decided it's their mission to stop that stuff from happening, and so they go out to every one of these libraries where this is going on, and they seek to cause huge trouble, and they're prepared with they're actually walking around in these protests fully armed with their AR-15s and their 45 calibers and their 50 calibers, and it's just, what the fuck do you guys think you're doing?
Yeah.
And they're all hyped up on the same bullshit laws or bullshit facts that aren't real. It's just horrible what the Republicans have done.
Yes.
It has been decided and I don't know which, if it was the World Court or which, has officially declared that in the United States there is a genocide in process against
Yeah.
trans people.
The rhetoric, the conversations, the checklist, if you will, of claims and beliefs and actions that have to happen and have always happened in every historically recorded genocide that we have, not are happening, are starting to happen here. We're finished with that list. The othering, the dehumanizing, they're all pedophiles. Every single person is a pedophile. You can't like a trans or a gay or this group of people because they want to sexually assault your child.
Right.
That rhetoric is part of the genocide rhetoric.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't
And
mean
what's
that
and
we're
what's even
part of God. It
what's
does
e-
mean that we need to recognize
what's
the
even
thing.
worse about the whole thing is that if you look in the very easy to obtain police records of arrests in the court cases, one person's keeping track right now, and out of some 500, 600 arrests and or convictions of pedophiles. The biggest group that's represented by them is Baptist preachers and that sort of thing, and then it's followed up with who's next? Poopy. I think which one is worse? These two may be tied or really close. Republican politicians and police. And then way down at the bottom, there's teachers, sadly. And after that, it's family. No drag queens, no trans people. And you show people these lies, and you show people the proof, and they still won't accept it. No, it's just shocking. But it's what we have from where our past has been, and growing up with media that has hated all of us and said nothing but bad about us. When I was at the social service agency, I didn't, when I had the blackout and stuff, I didn't tell everybody what was going on right away. And yeah, I had a private office. They didn't know that I lost it. But when I finally came out and made the pronunciation that I'm trans and I'm going to be transitioning, and here's my name, and blah 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 blah, I was fired from a social service agency whose motto was unconditional positive regard. And I was fired. I lost my job. They blackballed me in the social services community. I lost my parents. I lost all my relatives. I lost all my friends. I was evicted from my apartment. The school wouldn't change my gender name and records on records. And I had to carry special identification and documentation in case I got pulled over by the police. Okay, and that didn't necessarily work. It was let's cross your fingers and hope they let you go because of this. Right. And it nobody wants to be trans, okay?
Yeah, no one asks for that hardship.
Yeah.
That you'd rather just be born in like the body of your preference, but that's not like a fucking choice. So you have to do what you got.
You don't get a choice of being trans. You only get a choice of whether you're going to deal with it or commit suicide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are very few trans people who can go through it, know who and what they are, and to not deal with it and stay with the wife and keep the family together. There's very few people like that who can do that. They all of us have to treat it in our way. Everybody's different, but
and there's different ways, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So never think you just have to go with that other option, because the other option, there's only one way. There's a suicide, but
And I'll continue with my transparency. I've attempted twice.
I'm sorry.
When things really weren't going well, and I saw no other way out, and that one was before transition, and one was not so many years ago. But I survived. I did. See,
Yes, you did. You know, I'm able to a lot of times just if I hear something, whether bigoted or hateful or racist, whatever it is, that I'm just like Christine, come, close it. There are many times where it's just I'm not gonna help. I'm too upset. I'm not gonna ad hominem, you know, or anything like that. But I am going to tell this bigot or whatever, you know, it's not going to help, and I will be wasting my time. Is when I just know it's not the right time, it's not the right place, just walk away. And in the grand scheme of things, who are they in my real life, and will I ever see them again? All those things matter. One I cannot is when I hear transgender, trans people, trans kids, whatever, the trans whatever is just a mental health crisis. Okay, let me tell you why I cannot stay quiet.
Define mental health.
It's a motherfucking health crisis, right? So are we going to help them get that mental health care? Because you know what is recommended for trans youth, trans adults, you know what's recommended, right? Right. But you don't want that. You say it's mental health. It's a mental health issue, and it needs to be dealt with mental health professionals. But what do those mental health professionals say needs to be done? Gender affirming care. So you can't tell me that it is this when you don't believe, I can't. And then the other part of that is you're saying it is a mental health crisis. However, not one iota of any cell of your body wants to help by helping create legislation that would provide mental health care, i.e. health care, for every single person. So don't tell me that unless, you know, it just really drives me insane. Like, well, yes, it's real, but you know, it's a mental health thing. Okay, first of all, wow, I have to take it back like, I don't know, 7 or 8 decades to talk to you, and I wasn't alive then, so maybe I should keep walking. But that one really, I mean, it's just, you're saying it is this, it exists, and it is this, right? You're agreeing it is a mental health crisis for this person, these people, this whatever.
Medical science has tried to deal with us in many different ways before they understood what things are.
Before people take that as a clip, I don't agree that it is a mental health, that it is a problem with mental health. I agree that that's what they say, and if that is true, then they need to go see specialists, and the specialist is okay. That's all. I just didn't want it to leave it like I agree it's a mental health issue. No, go ahead.
No, I forgot.
I'm good at that. I'm sorry.
What did I say? Roll back the tape here. We've been studying, or trans science has studied us many different ways, and in the earliest of days, okay, we're talking about like the 1910s, 1920s. Oh, one quick sidebar. There's a whole bunch of people that still think trans has only been around for 20 years. Just laugh at them if you ever hear them say that. Anyway, so you go back to last century, and they used to take, you know, suspected trans people or people who complained about it and went to see a doctor and these things, and they worked as hard as they could to bring this person's brain around to not believe that about themselves anymore. They would get committed to mental institutions, which back in those days were more like hellholes and torture chambers. I mean, some of the stuff that they would physically do to people to change their brain was just outrageous, including lobotomies. Okay. Eventually, medical science began to smarten up and look at the body count and realize that we don't seem to be able to change the brain. What if we were to change the body?
Right. Right.
And
Hello.
and suddenly people were surviving and they were flourishing and they were happy and they went on with their life and no problem from there on. So
Right.
it's kind of hard to deny the practicality and the reality of success. Bottom surgery for transgender women. I don't speak much about transgender men because I really haven't studied them, and that's not fair, but it's just the way it is. Anyways, for transgender women, the regret rate of surgery, and everybody always wants to know, oh, do you regret what you did? The regret rate of bottom surgery for trans women is about 2%.
Yeah.
There is no other medical procedure that has a regret rate even close to that. Okay, things like a breast augmentation, you're talking about a regret rate of 30-40%. Okay,
Right.
this is a wide difference. Okay, but they still, say, well, it's unproven, it's experimental. No, 100 years worth of work is not an experiment. Okay. When I transitioned and I got my hormones for the first time, they were giving me Premarin, which is conjugated estrogens from horse piss.
Okay.
And they, again, they didn't know what they know today, and so we were given massive doses. I mean, we're talking about like 7.5 milligrams 3 times a day, which is just huge. If you go look at how much estrogen is in somebody's birth control pill.
Right.
So anyways, we were taking that because that much was necessary to suppress the testosterone. So that, you could change and your mind changes and your body changes and blah, blah, blah. And then you'd also take progesterone, but you'd have to have it specially compounded so that it was bio identical, not just some synthetic concoction. And nowadays, a few, now I shouldn't say a few, let's say 10, 12, 15 years ago, whatever, they, through coincidence, doctors realized that people who were taking this drug called spironolactone would suppress hormones. And it was so that it was prescribed for some trans people, in an off-label situation, which is legal. It's just off-label. They didn't design the drug for this, but it still does what it does. And then they found that does a great job, and so we now can give these people much less estrogens, which can be dangerous. I mean, if you get way too high in estrogen, you can definitely do things like starting to throw off blood clots, which can kill you.
Right.
And water retention and just all kinds of things. And so you want to take as little as possible. Nowadays, nobody takes Premarin. Nobody.
Wow.
Okay. We're all taking estradiol in various forms, either a patch, injectable, a pill, sublingual, which is under the tongue. Some people do suppositories. No, thank you. So but it's all you're dealing with doses like okay, my dose is 1/10 of 1 milligram once a week. So kind of different from the early days. Now I happen to be on spironolactone, even though I was never prescribed it for trans issues. I take it because I'm a cardiac patient, and that's what its prime intention was. Now, another little fascinating thing, people say, "Oh, all these surgeries are all experimental." Blah, 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 blah. The bottom surgery, vaginoplasty, well, in penectomy and vaginal reconstruction and breast implants and all this. All of these surgeries, these procedures were developed and perfected on cis women to take care of various birth defects, various accidental damages, some disease, a disease profile of some sort. They were all designed for straight women, and they realized, well, we can use the same procedures on trans people. Let's do that. And it worked. Okay. Wow. They're actually at a number of colleges and schools around the world. Baylor in Texas is one. They are now doing experimentation with transplanting a uterus. And again, they're developing it for cis women, but they all have said there's no reason that this won't work for trans women. But we're not going to start with them yet. We're going to work the bugs out first. And there's been a few live births that have been completely successful. So in the future, if the donors are there, there will be trans women having babies.
What will Matt Walsh have to do? What will he say?
I don't know, but a woman's more than just somebody who can pop out babies, and that's just such a silly argument. They say, oh, well, you don't have the same anatomy as, well, okay, a woman who has had a hysterectomy, how about a woman who has had a breast reduction, or an augmentation? Okay, if they've had the same procedures that I have, then we're talking about the only thing that says that they're this and I'm that is this one little half of one chromosome. And out of that chromosome, only 4% of it actually determines gender. The rest of it does a whole bunch of other things. The other point that people should know is that it isn't just XX and XY. That is 3rd and 5th grade biology. Right. Okay. Human sexuality, there are 16 possible variations that we know of to this point of XY combinations. Some are XXX, some are XXY, some are XYY. It goes down the line, and each one has its own group of symptoms and issues. But they're all out there. There are women who are born with all the equipment, except they also have testicles and things. Okay. Now, is that person the doctor slaps? But what do they call them? Well, they call them intersex, and then they do some surgery without having any idea what the child's going to develop as, and often they're wrong, and so they give these kids like a female surgery, and the kid actually is in their head very male. So that's just a big problem with intersex people. That has to be worked out.
We just probably shouldn't mutilate babies. We should probably just not do that overall.
Nope. And in all these hateful politicians, they cite intersex as, oh, well, that's not the same. We should definitely let those people have all those kinds of surgeries and all that kind of gender affirming care. Yeah. But if you're trans, no. But if you're intersex, yes. And for the intersex kids, it doesn't work. For us, it does.
You get one chance if you're intersex, and it's the guess of someone else that's not you.
Now, for all you guys out in the chat, I'll tell you one thing, because I know a bunch of you are thinking it in your head and wondering. The sex as a woman is so much better than a sex as a man. Oh my God, it's so much better. And it goes on and on and on and on. And it's the best thing I ever did.
There you go. No, man, you have it.
Yeah, that is a great. Mac has to actually be up in like 6 hours and some change for work. And this is one of the longest shows we've had in a long time, which is awesome. And we were just talking about how smart Miss Jenni actually is. I think that I took notes so I know what we did talk about. And Jenni, you are definitely welcome to come back. You see something that's happening in the news and you're like, oh, Christy, I need to come. Yeah, just let us know. Mac, now you have that group message on whatever. It's not Twitter anymore. Yeah.
Let me
So
leave this on a positive.
She doesn't have Twitter anymore. So
let me leave this on a positive note.
yeah.
There's been a few court cases going on, and a number of these draconian bills that have been passed are being determined to be absolutely unconstitutional.
Which is good.
And so there's pain and things going on, but even Republican courts are saying, no, no, you can't do this.
Right. Well,
the other horror that's going on is right now in 19 states, and they've all signed a paper together to do it, is they are demanding that hospitals in their states give the state attorney all the records of anyone who's trans. The state's going to get your medical records, and they want the same thing for any woman who's had an abortion ever.
Yep.
There's your Republican Party, folks.
Yeah, very much so. Well, I hope this episode helps someone. I appreciate you coming in and sharing your story and then talking with us about all of it. This is great. We would definitely love to have you back on again.
Purple. Hold on, Purple. Yes. I see you. I'm so glad you came tonight. I know why you came tonight. It is exactly your, topic. You are, I've been reading all yours, trying to stay on top of all of it. I love getting to know you guys better, especially on topics like tonight, which did let me in on a lot, which makes my heart very happy. Smitty, of course, RB. Yes, legend.
Perp the Derp is here?
Yes, Purpose here. Let's see. We have Titan, of course, Titan Uranus, which is hilarious to say.
Yeah, it's the best name on the internet.
Pretty funny, if you ask me. Francesca is here. I think that is Wetabeck. I almost forgot Wetabeck. And Stephanie Helms. I knew there was one more. Hello, Stephanie. And then, of course, our Lord and Savior and Mac. And then what were you going to say? I just didn't want to forget to say hi to Purple, and thanks for being here. Good idea. Yeah. Yes.
I did run into a name on the internet that I absolutely, it's just adorable to me. And it just tickles my fancy so much. She's on TikTok, and her name is Binka Love, Binka Love. It's just such a cute name.
Binka.
I love it.
Titan Uranus is pretty good, though. I mean, call me immature.
I almost had a seizure the first time I saw that name.
I was like, okay, already I love this person and I need them in my life. I cannot get mature on those things. On that level, it's just not going to happen. Farts will always make me laugh. And if you tell me I can't laugh, that's when I'm not going to be able to stop. So
people have studied this, and farts are the number one point of humor in the world. And the earliest joke that was found recorded was a fart joke. Okay.
Oh, I can't wait to tell my brother that. Oh, I have a little brother who, his whole spiel is fart, piss, and poo jokes when we were young. And man, he's funny. He's funny. I love you guys. I love you, Jenni. Thank you for coming and sharing all of that. You have so much. You guys just so much more to share. Can't even
thank
tell
you so much for having me.
After listening to all the
Chad, thank you for being here. You are why we do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Have a lovely evening and weekend, and don't get caught.
That's right. Don't be bad or be good at it. And stay humanist for God's sake.